Welcome to the Couch Live. I am the street certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado here with you on WPSN99.com. This is Dope and Dharma, the Couch Live. I'm Dope. That's Dharma. Trinity Phelps, my partner, the Dharma guy. What's going on, brother?
What is up?
Excellent, Trinity. 21 years and counting, still on the Couch Live, still doing the show, the longest running show on addiction and recovery on the planet. And Trinity, we have a special guest today.
That
so
we
I
do.
better just bring him on so we don't, so he doesn't hurt us.
Right, let's bring him on. There he is.
Yeah, bring him on. Matt Morgan, the Blueprint. Matt Morgan. Are we able to say the Blueprint, or do I owe somebody some money just for saying
you probably owe somebody something, I'm sure.
No, we're good.
We owe him money.
Right.
We're going to have to send him a check now.
Yeah, exactly. So that is Matt Morgan, ex-professional wrestler, if he looks familiar to you. For those of us here near Longwood, Florida, or as he refers to it, Strongwood, he is the Longwood commissioner. Now, weren't you the mayor? What happened? You just switched roles over there?
Oh, yeah. So in the city of Longwood, our mayor title is by title only, per se.
Okay.
And every year, to be the five of us commissioners all have equal responsibilities. No one is greater than the other, honestly. And so for mayor, you're really the chairman of the meeting, so to speak.
Right.
And so each year in the month of May, we five commissioners decide which person we want to be our mayor. And I got nominated by them, my fellow commissioners, a second time this past May. But we were in the middle of COVID just hitting, and I was part of a lot of important conference calls on the decision making for the executive orders being passed here in Seminole County with our Seminole County Commission chairman at the time, Jason Bauer. And so I wanted to pass on the baton on to one of my fellow commissioners. And I wanted to hold true to my word on that and giving somebody who hadn't had an opportunity at mayor yet an opportunity. You know, yeah, it's by title only, but still, you know, you don't want to be a ball hog. You want to share the wealth, so to speak.
Hey, you got to tag him in.
Absolutely. And we're a single functioning unit. You know, I may get a lot of the headlines because I'm, you know, the guy that spent on people's TV sets for so many years, right? I get that. But by the same token, it's equally important to me, not just the work I do, but to get the work that my fellow commissioners do every single day in, day out here in Longwood, because I can't do anything by myself, right? You got to do everything that passes 3 out of 5 of us to control the majority of policy making here to get anything accomplished. So we are one team here in Longwood.
Pretty awesome, man. Longwood is a nice little town. I like that little city, man.
Yeah, I like
Thank
Longwood.
you.
Good for
Thank
Longwood,
you guys.
man. Yeah.
You better,
right,
you better say that.
I want my Strongwood hat, though. I don't have a Strongwood hat.
Right.
I need to, you know what? I need to start creating these. Everybody asks me about them. I you know what? I should.
Yeah, it's a cool hat, man. So if you recognize Matt on our show and you go, but wait a minute, I don't know wrestling, but yet I recognize him because there's at least one person out there that will recognize him from the Hope-a-thon. And I see Marissa recognize you from the Hope-a-thon. So thank you, Marissa. He was on the Hope-a-thon. He came out and joined us for that long 24 hours of hope that we did late last year. We'll be doing it again. So he came out and shared with us. But, you know, you can't tell right now if you're looking at your set, if you're looking at your computer or your phone and you're watching this. But that's a 7-foot man right there. That's a big boy. When you came on the Hope-a-thon set, I mean, it was, Jesus, man. I mean, I'm always used to being around a big boy. Obviously, I'm around Trinity all the time. And so, you know, I already feel small all the time. And then you come and say another huge man. So it was great having you on that, and it's great having you here. And so let's tell people why you're here today, because we named the show today Wrestling with Addiction, because obviously you did that literally. You wrestled with addiction. You're open about it, which is awesome, by the way. Let me first tell you that. It's awesome that you recover out loud. I think that's a new movement that started not too long ago, but we needed it, you know. Many of us got clean and sober in a time where we were told to stay in a closet, and that's the only way to keep it. That's the spiritual foundation, is to stay silent and stay in shame. Well, at least that's how I interpret it. Stay in shame, because if I would tell anybody about it, then they would ridicule, or they would judge me, or they wouldn't accept me. You've been doing it out loud, you know, just like I have. And look, I hold a position in the county, in the counties that I work in, and in this community. Look at the position that you hold in this county. I think we've proven, there's so many of us that have proven you can recover out loud, and this community will support you and forgive you, because that's the true nature of the American people, is that they're very forgiving. People are very forgiving. It's what have you done for me lately? So sometimes it's not such a great thing, because if you don't do anything for
Right.
them lately, they forget you. But as long as you keep being relevant and helping people, they'll also lift you up when you're doing well. So it's good to see you do that. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, no offense to society, but like, who the hell are they to forgive any addict that struggles with addiction and wants to go get help and get clean and sober? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well, but I don't think it's for
it is
them.
a,
I don't think it's. Let me clarify what I
it's a
mean by that. What I
mental
mean by that.
that's a mental
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah, what I mean by that, Matt, is that everybody probably, well, not everybody, but most people know somebody that hurt them really bad, and they attribute that one individual, and they kind of like blanket all of us that have that particular disease. Like they'll paint it with a broad
Mhm.
stroke and say, well, because that guy's a thief and a liar, that means you're a thief and a liar, and they take you from that one
Okay.
little moment of your life rather than judging you on the
Okay.
totality of life. You know what I
I,
mean?
I,
Our life
I,
is a lot
yeah.
longer than the brief moments that we spend with people.
Right. No, it's a very, very good point. But um, I'll do you one better. It's when I came out talking about my addiction, I was very scared at the time because I was still I gave up wrestling because I thought that's what I needed to do to stay sober. I couldn't be around other
Yeah.
functioning addicts and other access to painkillers because you get rid of people, places, and things. And I was
Right.
willing to get rid of wrestling as part of those places and things if need be to stay sober. Dead serious. And so
Yeah.
my doctor had talked me after a certain level of security in me being sober. I think it was like six or 8th month mark, I want to say. He talked me into doing a little independent wrestling show in Sanford, Florida. Just saying, you know what, Matt, let's see how you even feel. You might not even like that. Didn't you get involved in this because you loved it? You know what I mean? Let's see if you still have that passion for it. And if you do, you have a great story that you could take back to the world of television and entertainment in your celebrity role and really speak for a lot of other addicts out there that are still too scared. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. But at the time, wrestling companies didn't want to do business with an
Mm.
admitted addict, because think about it. Why would you want to sign somebody to a contract that very well could relapse again? I could have relapsed and I could have overdosed, let's say, for the 8th time. And that 8th
Yeah.
time might have been the one that got me. Right
Right.
now, I'm on their watch. There's another unnecessary headline in the USA Today or something like that. Another pro wrestler dies, So I saw that side of the argument, but I was like, I'm willing to take the gamble. A company will want to hire me. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I was able to, they took it and used it into a strength, believe it or not, where I would go out and speak to kids' schools about my story of overcoming addiction and how I got caught with it in the beginning and how it all started, and things that these kids can look out for. Not just
Right.
with opioids, but anything, about telling these kids, depending what age group I was talking to at the time. And I'm talking me going across the world touring with my wrestling organization. I'm talking, we're in China, we're in all different countries. I'm giving the same speech, even with an interpreter next to me helping me do it. But nonetheless, everybody I told this speech to. And I did it for quite a few years. And it's this, you're able to transition it into bullying and other things of that nature, and telling these kids from day one, people are not your friends that ever ask you to do something that you don't want to do. The minute you feel that's happening, that's not your friend, and you put it on a basic level like that. If you're talking to a younger group of kids, because they can understand that at least. And if it's
Yes.
a group of high school kids, let's say, then I
Right.
could transition that conversation into a little bit more real stuff to really show them my times, trials and tribulations during my real bad part of addiction. Throwing up blood, scared I'm going to die in a hotel room in the middle of Italy on tour. Things like that to really grab their
Right.
attention of how serious this is. And you don't want to end up like I was, getting caught up by this addiction.
Right. Well, I'm glad you talked about little kids, because that's kind of where I want to take it today. I kind of want to hear more about you as a kid. The Matt
Yeah,
Morgan, the kid before wrestling, like, because we all have a story of how we get to where we got to, right? Whether it be some
true.
sort of pain, whether it be some sort of trauma, whether it be mental health issues, like you've already indicated. Do
Hmm.
you mind sharing with us a little bit of background about where you were raised? Like, let's start off with what city, what town, what were your parents like, that kind of stuff.
So I grew up in Fairfield in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Not many people really know where that is, but Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Fairfield. I was born in Bridgeport Hospital. Um, I grew up in special education from first through sixth grade. Um, and I rode a short bus to school. Back then, they had the short bus that they put all of us special needs kids on, and we'd all be grouped together. And believe it or not, it actually worked for me. I had a learning disability, attention deficit disorder. But back in 1983, that was not very prevalent. Not at all. I was kicked out of 3 grammar schools all before first grade. Dead serious. And so, like, we had a superintendent at the time that literally told my mom, "Your son's going to end up in an institution, jail, or dead before he's 21." Like, they told my mother this before I even hit first grade. Like, that's crazy. But by the same token, hey, so long story short, my mom did her due diligence. She saw in the Bridgeport Post newspaper one day a study being conducted by Yale University. This study was done for free, and I spent a week there, and I had all these, like, I'm dead serious, electrodes on my head at certain portions of this. I recall I had this harness around my belt that was on me 24 hours a day, and it would monitor when my heart rate would get to a certain point, and they could almost predict my impulsivity, times of day that my impulse issues might come up. I'm dead serious. It's pretty impressive. And in turn, what I found out years later when I was old enough to understand what this test study was that Yale was doing, it was done by a doctor called I think it was Dr. Shaywitz. And he was like a grandfather of ADD, believe it or not. Very, very, I should say a founding father. And Ritalin, this test study was also for Ritalin. And so they tried Ritalin with me, and my new first grade teacher absolutely loved it because I was now quiet. I wasn't running around the room causing chaos. And the problem was I was falling asleep. I was lethargic. I was not my normal self. I was a normal man. So my mom hated it. She took me off of it. And then we got me the help I needed. We found a special education class a little bit outside of my district that I had to go to. And again, we had to ride this short bus to there. It was a very long trip to get there, but it was worth it because we did what was called behavior modification. That's what worked best for me, meaning a very controlled environment where I would do my schoolwork in a cubicle all day, basically. They were allowed to take things from us like recess, lunch, things like that if we didn't do what we were supposed to be doing. So for me, I learned at an early age a lot of discipline and a little something called work ethic, hard work ethic, because I wanted, like the Dickens, to get out of this class and join my other friends in Main Street. I wanted to be in their gym class so I could kick their butt at sports. I wanted to be outside at their recess so I could kick their butts at sports, and feel more, quote unquote, back then what they used to very incorrectly call normal. You know what I mean? I wanted to be accepted in sports. I learned sports was able to give me that transition into that. I was able to utilize sports to get along with those mainstream kids that used to make fun of me. And they used to call me Tart Cart Matt. As terrible as that sounds, you can never say something like that today.
What
Back then, nope. You couldn't hear me?
No. Tart Cart? What was that?
Yeah, that's what these kids used to call me in the mainstream
I don't even know
classroom.
what that means. Tart Cart Matt.
They were saying they're well, use your brain. They're saying that I'm retarded.
No. I got retarded part, but Tart Cart. I don't know how that goes together. No, that's weird.
Because I took the short bus to school, and you're missing. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, the moral of the story is this, brother.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is you can never get away with saying something like that today, and thank God for that, because that did a number on me mentally and emotionally. I literally came home one day and asked my mom that question. I literally believed these bullies that were like 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
I was so convinced. They had me so convinced. Like, that's how impressionable I was. And I asked my mom that question, and she's like, no. She goes, you may learn a different way, but so did each and every one of them, Matt. And the difference between you and them, you have the cojones to go and get the work done and do the special help that you need so you can maintain and get good grades. And that's called bravery. So you know what? Don't listen to any of them. They're not your friends. And she was right. So
I'm out right
but
there. Time
so
out.
that was
Where was your dad at the time? Was your
right
dad
there,
around too?
right there,
Yeah.
right there, saying the same thing.
Okay. So they were together. They
Yeah.
were supportive. Both of them were great. Both of them were
Oh
supportive.
my God, yes. Very,
All
See, I
right.
very,
like to
very
I
good.
like to highlight that because a lot of people. I come from good parents too, and a lot of people tend to believe that we all come from a broken homes. You know, those of us that have drug and alcohol issues. So I want to make sure that it's not just
No.
mom, but it's dad as well.
And I'll do you one better. I had a mom the whole time I was in high school. I was an all, getting college scholarship offers now. I was really, really good at basketball, um, and very, very popular because of that, right? As many jocks, as it were, are in school, right, for high school. But anytime I'd go out and try to socially fit in, because I was still very insecure,
Yeah.
at the time, my mom would warn me, do not drink a drop of alcohol. You have a chemical imbalance, Matthew, that is in our family. And she called it
Smart.
from day one. She
Smart.
called it from day one about
Yeah.
the addictive gene we all have in our family.
And this is about what year? Just to put it in perspective.
1994, junior year in high school.
Okay. 1994.
Yeah.
So you grad your class in 95?
Yeah.
Yeah. Young man. Isn't that about like your class, Trinity? Aren't you around 95?
99.
99. All right. Cool. All right. So here in the 90s, which we still really didn't understand addiction. It's weird how in the 90s we still didn't understand addiction that very well. You know what I mean? Didn't understand mental health issues, didn't understand behavioral health issues. Uh okay.
Yeah.
So you're a young man. Can you take us back to sixth grade around that time frame? Just because you said you did it from first to sixth grade. So
Yeah.
so
Okay.
how were you already a large guy? Were you already athletic?
Yeah. Sixth grade is when sports. I started to try out for the basketball team at middle
Yeah.
school. I had gotten
Okay.
cut when I was in sixth grade.
Hmm.
Um, but then the following year, I made the team in seventh grade, and that's when I was off and running. You
Uh-huh.
really, really utilizing sports for my
Right.
what I would call social inequities, as far as me feeling, or better yet, me feeling insecure, I should say, and wanting to
Right.
fit in with everybody else.
And that is
Um,
that time period.
but
That is a time period where a lot of kids make that transition between 9 and 11 years old. They start deciding, am I going to go the sports athletic route, or if I don't have those skills, am I
right.
going to go a different route? So that's a very important period of life right there.
No, you're 100% right, man. You called it. And I was in what was called resource room now, meaning I would go for one period a day. And if I needed extra help on, especially math was my weakness, I could get a lot of help from Miss Chicklick. I remember her name like yesterday. Was
Oh,
my resource room teacher, and
that's good.
she was able to help me one period each day. And then I would say in eighth grade there was nothing. I was just fully mainstream. There was no resource room. There was no more special education affiliation or anything.
All right.
And I was off
So
in my
time out. So time out right there. In eighth grade, were you still in the same town?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the people you still went to school with in eighth grade remember, who you were in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and so did you. Now, so did you take on that anger or frustration of the people that used to call you that ridiculous name? Were you still angry at that point? Did you forgive them by that point? Where were you in eighth grade at that point with that? The resentment part.
Unfortunately, I look back,
Mhm.
it mentally messed with me bad. Like there was definitely some scarring from it, right?
Right.
But by the same token, it was unfortunately very accepted back then. Nobody was gonna say anything to these kids about that. Nobody.
Mm.
They would just get a, please, would you please stop? Please quiet down. Like at best by one of the teachers, right? At best. Not, hey, we don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Nobody was having
Yeah.
that conversation with those kids.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, my judgment of them saying those things to me was, that's okay. That's just boys must be boys.
Okay.
You know what? They may talk like that, but I'll never talk like that. And I'll try to stand up for kids. If I ever hear them talk like that about another kid, I'll stand in
Okay.
front of that. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Right
see
on.
where you're at eighth grade then. So in eighth grade, you're kind of, so you're already athletic. You're already a big kid. You're not doing anything about it. You're not I mean, you're holding resentment, but you're not doing anything with the resentment at this point. right?
Mm-mm.
So how about when
No.
you're at home alone by yourself and you're thinking, are there any things going on with you that maybe some other eighth graders, some other people, parents right now that may be listening or watching this, that their kids are feeling something? Were there any clues to what you were experiencing inside?
It's a great question, man. Very deep one. Um, hmm. No, and you also need to remember, we're in eighth grade now. So in eighth grade, I hit this huge growth spurt where I'm like 6'3", 6'4".
Ooh,
Jesus.
I shot up that summer. That was the summer, and
wow.
huge feet, huge hands. I looked so gangly, scrawny, and I was just very insecure with my body. Super
Yeah,
insecure.
yeah.
Um, I was dunking a basketball though. I was able to dunk a basketball for the first time in eighth grade. You think like you'd have the whole world stitched up, right? But no, very insecure about my body and my looks. I think most people are, obviously, but um,
Everybody is. I don't care how big you are, how small. If you're too big, it's because you're too big. If you're too small, it's because you're too small.
yeah,
Everybody's got
yes,
everybody's got something they're dealing with around that
Yep.
age. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of
yeah,
the things that I think that we all can relate to. Everybody has some sort of insecurity they were experiencing at that age, whether anybody realized it or saw it at all. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So at that point in time, what are your coping skills like around eighth grade, ninth grade, going into high school? What were your coping skills? How did you deal with anger? How did you deal with frustration? How did you deal with insecurity?
Sports, and a little bit of remember the original Nintendo and then Genesis, some video games, but definitely sports. Seriously, I was all over
Yeah.
sports. I was outside playing after I got my homework done. That was the deal with my parents. As long as I finished my
Okay.
homework, I could go out to play. And I'd go to my boys and girls club where I'd spend just an unrelentless amount of time at my boys and girls club, playing basketball and working on
Yeah.
my game. I love doing that. And
Yeah.
I knew then I wanted to get a college scholarship. The only way I was going to go to college was if I could get an athletic scholarship,
Yeah.
is what I had in my head.
Okay. All right. And so, take us through high school. The high school, were you dating? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you have a little bit of friends?
Huh.
What were you socially in high school?
I had my friends again, sports coming through clutch for me. I had friends through sports. I had friends from my baseball team, friends from my football team, friends
Yep.
from my basketball team, right? But
Right on.
I wasn't Johnny quarterback, right? I wasn't the guy wearing the Letterman's jacket that every girl wants to be with and every guy wants to be, right? That wasn't me. Um, but I would say my first girlfriend. Good Lord, I don't even think I had my first girlfriend until I was honestly my senior year.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
And my dad once told me that basketball was going to be my girlfriend, and he was right. I was so
What?
passionate about that sport, brother. Oh my God.
Good. Well. Bonus points if you can remember her name.
Carolyn Center.
Wow.
Cha-ching.
Right on.
Right on. Shout out to Carolyn. Should have stuck with him. Anyway, so all right. So then, you are finishing high school. And you said you went on to play basketball, right? You kept playing basketball.
Yes. Very, very fortunate to receive a Division I scholarship at Monmouth University in New Jersey, West Long Branch, New Jersey, to be exact. Made the NCAA tournament my freshman year. Then
Yeah.
I transferred out after my sophomore year to Chaminade in Honolulu, Hawaii, where I met my future wife,
Wow.
Like
Larissa.
that. Right on.
Yeah,
Very
Honolulu,
cool.
Hawaii. Was that a
yeah.
tough decision to make? Should I transfer and go to Hawaii or not?
Nope.
New Jersey or Hawaii? Yeah.
So
Like,
so at that
seriously.
time, now you're around legal age. So are you drinking? Are you smoking pot? Are you doing
Good
anything? Like
questions.
where you are substance wise at that age?
So I wasn't a big pot guy. I don't know. I just wasn't my deal. Drinking beer and things like that
Mhm.
socially, once I turned 21. But even then, like my mom's voice is still in the back of my head here about needing to be careful because we have alcoholism in our family.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
Right.
God bless her. She did do everything she possibly could, brother, to have
They did.
cemented this in my head that you can't take these things like everybody else can, Matt, because you're gonna get hooked.
Right.
I
Right.
should have, you
Well,
know,
one of my
damn.
one of my one of the things that I say about myself, it's it's not that my recovery is very different than anybody. When I look at people that recover like me and like you, one of the benefits that we have is that we always had that strong foundation that you can come back to. I feel more for the individuals that didn't have the strong foundation to begin with, because what do they come back to? They have to create the family. They have to create the foundation. And I think it's much harder for people to recover when they have to go
Oh my
create
God.
that. So what I like to tell parents and whatever,
Yes.
just create the strong foundation. And look, there's a strong likelihood they'll come back to you. They'll get back on the right track. Just hold the faith, hold the hope, and just keep saying the right things. Don't be so concerned about that, because that is something that we all use when we get back to healthy. You know what I mean?
You know
Is coming
what's
back to
Million
that.
funny?
percent correct.
Well,
Sorry, go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
brother.
Trinity.
I would say what's funny is my mom used to say the same thing. She used to always tell me, "Don't drink." I guess that was what they said to the kids in the '80s. She was telling me, "Just don't drink, don't do that when you get older, because it's in our family." So, like, I recall my mom telling me the exact same thing for the better part of my life.
Ah,
Yeah,
now don't get
yeah,
me wrong. I definitely had my best friends be like saying like, Matt, every mom says that. They just don't want you to drink, you know? And but my mom was right. Now that I'm older, we definitely have alcoholism in my family. No question
yeah,
about it. We do.
yeah,
She wasn't BSing me, you know?
Sure.
She's
yeah.
being my mom. So for those of you kids out
Sure.
there watching this, I know you may think mom is corny or your dad is a dork or whatever have you, but I assure you guys, you kids watching this, they're telling you what they're telling you because they know your family genes better than anybody. It's their genes, P.S.
Yeah,
And for the fact that you're their most prized possession. They don't have a
yeah,
reason to ever BS you guys, ever.
yeah. Right on. All right. So now take us to Hawaii. What's happening in Hawaii? You meet your future wife in Hawaii. That's pretty cool. So
Yeah, it's
what else happened?
amazing. I met my Chaminade University, right? They host a
Yeah.
Maui Invitational on ESPN every year around Thanksgiving, which means
Okay.
you're playing number one ranked teams like Duke Blue Devils, Michigan, Michigan State, Syracuse, Indiana, all these great schools I grew up watching as a little boy, wanting to either play for or against. So that was another reason why I decided to go there, because I was guaranteed 3 ESPN televised games per season, which was a big deal back then. So my first day on campus, get this, my first day on campus, there was a party, and I still didn't know anybody. I'm brand new. I'm now, and we'll get into this if we have time, I'm now placed
Mhm.
in a situation where I'm in an environment where I'm the minority now. There's
Okay.
no question about it. Where I'm at now, there's the Caucasian guy, Caucasian woman is by far and away the
Right.
minority uh,
Mhm.
um, in this situation, in the melting pot that is Hawaii. So, anyways, first day on campus, I'm trying to figure out who's who on my team and things like that. Still meeting everybody, and then I'm walking out of a door. I'm sorry, walking into a door, and as I'm walking in, Larissa, my wife, was walking out right at the same time, and boom, walks right into the dead of my chest, face first, and just looks up at me. And she says, I don't know if she's adding spice to the story here by exaggerating. I don't because I don't remember doing this because it's incredibly demeaning looking back on it. If this is really what I did, but she says that I patted her on the head softly and said, "I'm so sorry." Um, and I was like, I did not pat you on the head. Come on.
That's
And
funny.
she's like, no, you did. And she goes out and she walked away thinking like, wow, who is this gigantor? Who is this huge dude? And, but lo and behold, when school starts up now, like one week later, give or take, she's in all my communication classes, all of them.
Right on.
And her and her twin sister, Marissa, my wife is a twin, and they
Right.
both were in like all my comm classes. We started doing projects, being on the same teams together for class projects, and I fell in love with her immediately. Immediately.
Was she a
That's awesome.
Haoli as well?
Say again?
Was she a Haoli as well?
A Howley, brother. You mean Howley?
Haoli, yeah.
No, No, Larissa. No, Larissa has 13 different ethnicities actually.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, man.
Wow.
And but there's definitely a really good lesson though I learned being there in Hawaii. No joke about what it feels like to be in a situation that you're no longer, you know, one of three or races where I grew up in the Northeast. Where I grew up in the Northeast, you were either black, white, or Hispanic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
literally just one of those three. Now Hawaii, holy mackerel! Like I'm learning now about Micronesian, Samoan, obviously Hawaiian, Filipino, and so many more. And it
Yeah.
was a great experience that I needed.
Right. So here you are in college. You're playing
Yeah.
basketball. Like, did you even watch wrestling back then? Was that a sport
Oh
that
my
you were
God.
aware of?
Are you kidding me? So since I was 6 years old, that was my thing. Wrestling was my jam.
Okay.
Wrestling, I didn't miss an episode. Even when wrestling went through the uncool phase, if you will, before The Rock and Stone Cold made it like super popular again, right? Back when Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan was making it popular, I'd say. All right.
Right.
Even when it went the uncool phase, I still was wearing like my Undertaker shirt to school and things like
Is
that.
that your guy?
And
Undertaker? Is that your guy?
that was my guy. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I used to
definitely.
like him too, actually.
So yeah, I was enamored with them, enamored with pro wrestling,
Yeah.
always.
All right. So then what happens? So then do you leave Hawaii
Oh yeah.
yet?
So we graduate. My wife and I both graduate with a degree in communications from Chaminade University, 2000. And then now is the big question. We're in love with each other. We know we want to marry one another.
Yeah.
But how do you convince this beautiful girl from Hawaii who's never really been off that island before
Yeah.
and say, hey, I've got this really sweet place in Connecticut. Like, come on, man. Like in the Northeast where it's freezing and terrible weather sometimes,
You
So
pat her on the head
God,
and pick her up and take her.
you're terrible. Thanks. No, she God bless her. She thought of it though. She came up with it and she's like, you know what? We're really gonna do this. We've got to really give this a real go. We can't do the long distance crap, Matt. We can't. Neither one of us will be good at it. And she was right. And so she came. God bless her. She was willing to come with me to Connecticut. My folks were not a big fan, obviously, of their son and any girl living together before being married. Very devout Roman Catholics. My mom and dad were. So this goes against everything they were taught and what they taught to me. But because of the circumstance, they got to meet Larissa. They loved Larissa from day one. She's a sweetheart of a human being, obviously, great heart. But she's coming all the way from Hawaii. So I just asked my parents, just give us a little bit of time. We're just graduating. I will get a job right away, and I'll make it happen. And both Larissa and I she worked for, I believe, Subway World headquarters in Milford, Connecticut, right after graduating. And I was working with Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Stamford, Connecticut, right after graduating. And we immediately found a place after living with my parents just for a few months there, in a different city, my wife and I. And then, I proposed to her. And get this, because Enterprise was in Stamford, Connecticut, where WWE World Headquarters is. That's where
I didn't know
and
that.
so millions of times a day, people would walk into Enterprise and say, hey, I'm with WWE. And I would ask them a million questions like a complete fanboy, just, again, enamored with these larger than life superstars. These were comic book heroes to me. And so when any of their staff would come in to rent car, I one day asked one of these guys, and one of them happened to be Dr. Tom Pritchard, who's a trainer. He trained The Rock and trained everybody else for WWE. And he goes, give me your name and number, and I want you to come to the gym at our headquarters there every Friday night. I want Vince to look at you. I want Vince McMahon to see the size of you. And at this time, you guys, you think I'm big? Guys, I was 368 pounds at 7 feet tall. I was enormous.
Whoa.
And I was really, all of my OCD, my obsessive compulsiveness that I have with everything that everybody sees that I'm very passionate about today. There's this obsessiveness where I can't turn my brain off on those subjects because I'm very passionate about it. Well, with weightlifting, that was very similar. So I got humongous in the gym, a little bit fat, to be honest. And so I started going for every Friday night after work at Enterprise to WWE headquarters and lift weights in the gym there. And eventually, after 6 months of doing this every single Friday night, hoping to see Vince McMahon, I finally see Vince McMahon.
Wow.
And it was hilarious because it was the same exact setup of me meeting my wife Larissa in college. No joke.
Did you pat him on the head,
brother? He was walking. I didn't do that. Oh my God, good one. I should have in retrospect, but no. He was walking out of the men's locker room as I was trying to come in after work, and get into my gym gear. And he walked right out into me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Mr. McMahon, I'm so sorry." And I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Matt Morgan. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for everything you've done for this business. You've given me, my brother, and my family years of entertainment. Just want to say thank you. And he's like, looking me up and down, going, "Holy bleep, son, how big are you?" And I told him, and he's like, "I want you to take the information down." And it was the same information I already had previously from this Dr. Tom Pritchard guy. Yeah. So long story short, he tells me they're going to be doing a reality show. Vince McMahon tells me this on MTV called WWE/MTV Tough Enough. And the winner of this reality show gets a WWE contract.
Oh, wow.
And so they told me to turn a tape in of who I am, why I want to be picked on this show, why I should be picked on this show. And so I did. Well, the guy that turned the tape in missed the cutoff date. So for the next 6 months, I have to watch this first season of Tough Enough roll out with all these guys and gals on it. And I'm going, ugh. And my wife's going, "You would destroy these," being my biggest fan, my biggest
Wasn't one of them
right?
The Miz? Isn't that The Miz?
Years later, yes. But this was the very first season of it. This was Maven and Nydia who won the first season.
Oh, okay.
So what year are we in at this point in time?
Oh, boy. I do not know. 2000, 2001?
Okay.
So anyways, I think my tape is lost. Nobody's going to see it. Sure enough, I get a call from MTV saying, "Hey, we want to see if you'd be willing to fly out to Las Vegas. We want to take a look at you in person." And I said, "For what?" And they said, "For Tough Enough season 2. I'm like, "But season 1's still going on the air right now." And they're like, "Nope." And I thought I was being ribbed and joked with by my friends, messing with me. And I hung the phone up, and they called me back right at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They called me back again. And they're like, "No, we're not joking. This is serious." And so, a long story short, my tape did get put in. It just got put in late. And I got flown out to Vegas where I had to try out with, I want to say, at this point, there was 1,000 in-person people there to audition live for this judging panel of MTV producers and WWE producers. And this is out of multiple thousands that sent their tapes in and auditions to get to this point. So I'm nervous. I see guys that are bigger than me. I see guys that are definitely probably much more entertaining than me, better talkers than me, better looking than me. You get those insecurities back again. Yeah. With that said, though, I, around this time, have watched wrestling plenty long enough. Huge fan, like I said. So I know what they want to see. They want to see a larger-than-life persona. That doesn't mean physically either. That means your character. Right? They want to see that character. And so I tried to do my best to give them that. I tried to give them the humble giant, who I really was, but dialed up a little bit. I'm college educated. Mostly at this time in wrestling, guys my size were not considered educated. They weren't good talkers. There was a very few of them, like Kevin Nash, Undertaker, Big Show really wasn't there just yet. But so long story short, I was already starting to come up with this blueprint persona in my head at this point without even learning how to wrestle yet. So I get picked up. I get picked for this show. My wife, I'll never forget this, it was like, "Oh my God, Matt, our world will never be the same again. You realize that, right?" I'm like, "Do you realize that?" I'm cool with this, or you need to be cool with this. And if you're not, you need to tell me. And she's like, "I don't want to stop you from your dreams." I'm like, "No, my dream is to be a dad and a husband and own my own house one day. I'll be damned how we get there. Whatever which way we get there is how we get there. Okay. And so she's like, nope, I support you. You're gonna do this, and you were born to do this. So I had the confidence of my now future wife intact, and so I went off to Louisville, Kentucky, where I then learned how to become a professional wrestler, being paid to do so from WWE. I was signed to a 3-year deal with them. Before the show was even over with, before my season 2 of Tough Enough reality show was finished, they already signed me, and really picked the ball up running from day one very quickly.
That's pretty darn sweet, man. So at that point in time, you're starting to wrestle. You got your contract. The relationship's going great. Family's going. Everything's going great. It's all on the rise. Where's the substance use at that point in time, if there's any?
So, WWF magazine comes out with this article, like this front cover where they put like they were trying to talk about outside sports in this magazine as well, not just wrestling, which is kind of weird when you think about it. They are a wrestling company, but nonetheless, they did this like Future 2.0 edition in which they were trying to say who's next. So who's next in basketball? Well, there's this LeBron James kid in high school, right? There's this Freddie Adu kid who's a teenager about to be signed by Major League Soccer and supposed to light the world on fire at the time or something like that. And some other athletes. And I was that version for WWE. This can't miss prospect that is, in just 6 months of training. At the time, Jim Cornette, a very big name in the professional wrestling business, and a guy who did a lot of good things for me, an amazing guy, did a lot of good things for me, would openly tell everybody, this Matt Morgan is a WrestleMania moment just waiting to happen. And so the page, my future was really being set here, if you will. And I didn't feel pressure from it. I felt excitement from it, a lot of excitement. So I tell you this, and I'm painting you this picture because it was right around that time I hurt my back. And this was my very first time being introduced to painkillers. And from that, I would say about a couple weeks in on the painkillers, maybe a month, maybe a full 30 days even, I started to notice this itchy feeling, this floaty type feeling. Yeah. More importantly, this ephedrine feeling, this Superman feeling. I could just take on the world and weightlift for 5 hours if I want to after my wrestling training is done. And long story short, I got bit like nobody's gotten bit before, brother. I mean, badly, I got bit with this. And it was such a rationalization of, look what's in front of you, Matt. Look what's in front of you. You have the whole world by the bleep on this side of the room right now if you go in this direction. But all you need to do is take those pills, and it's all there for the taking. Right?
Yeah.
And on the other side was, well, Matt, something's off here. You can't get out of bed without these pills. You're very cranky and moody if you don't have them. You're obviously hooked on these. You need to figure a way to get off these. And you need to figure out how to fix your injury with your lower back so you can have a long, prosperous career. So I picked the other way, which was I want to get called up to Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown ASAP. I don't want to wait. I want to get called up. I want to be in that limelight. I want to make it, right? Yeah. And so that's the way I picked it. And so my rationalization for the first year of being a fully functioning addict was definitely using. I remember telling you this on the show, right? Brother, I was using anywhere from 40 to 60, even on the high end, 80 milligrams of hydroxycodone every 4 hours. Never missed a 4-hour window in my 5 years of being addicted.
Right. So time out there for a second, because here's a similarity, your story and so many people that we've always spoken to, especially the athletes. They're young, they're strong, they've waited their entire life just to get these shots, to get these
Yeah.
moments. They get some injuries. Your explanation of what opiates felt like inside of you, I think, is probably one of the most important things that I think we need to tell young people, because there's a difference between how some people feel on opiates and what I would call us, the wrong people, would feel on opiates, right? Because that
Yes.
ephedrine feeling, that energy that you're talking about, I thought everybody felt that on opiates. I thought that when people take opiates, they would all feel this energy, feel awake, uh,
Hmm.
and apparently that's not so. Apparently, a lot of people get sleepy, tired. They just cannot do anything. And so I wanted to time out you there for a second, because I think that we need to address those young athletes that we know you're suffering injuries. We know you want it. We know, but I think the most important thing is when you said, I want a long, prosperous career. So you can make that choice. Do you want to get there today, or if you give it just a little bit more time, just be a little bit more patient, you can have an extended career. But be very careful, because those medications, they'll do their job to the point where you may not feel the injury that you're experiencing right now, but it's also
Right.
doing a lot of other things inside of you that are taking some shortcuts. And when your brain starts taking those shortcuts, when you want to put them down, that's when it becomes difficult. That's when it becomes a lot harder to move on, because you still have the injury. The injury's still there. You just don't feel it the same way.
Yes.
And tell me, Matt, how many athletes do you watch, and you know, as soon as you hear like a rookie get injured, like we've had, this last football season, we saw some tremendous rookies get injured, and you start thinking, man, I hope they can recover, not just from the injury, but from everything they're going to start taking to get away from the injury, so that they can get back, because they feel scared now. Now their fear is like, oh my God, if I don't get out there soon enough, I'm going to lose that job. I'm not going to be that starting quarterback. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be, I'm going to be on the bench. I'm not
Right.
going to be off the bench.
Right.
So can you speak a little bit to that, of that fear that
Yeah.
so many athletes feel when they're young?
So
That
when you're,
patience part?
so if there's kids that are watching this, let's say, number one, kids, you're not going to get offered painkillers. In today's day and age, it's very rare that you'll be offered it, and if you do, it's you've had a tooth pull, you've had something major happen with a surgery, and that's up for the parents to step in there if they so wish, and offer alternatives, whatever they may be. Always, but I just want to point this out, and this is where politics come into this, and where I'm very impressed with representatives like Scott Plakin here in Seminole County. Do you want to know why? Because he passed a bill just recently, just last year, maybe a year and a half ago, in which doctors now, before they can prescribe you a painkiller, okay, they've got to sit you down. They have to give you a paper, in written form. All right. Other non-addictive measures of pills that you can take that are non-addictive, to do the same thing as far as pain relief goes, and they also have to verbally say it to you as well. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was really important, because if that had been done for me, guess who wouldn't be here talking about this? Me, because I don't think I would have been hooked. I would have never have had the introduction to it to begin with. Now, to address some of the but to the kid again, really quick, to the kids one more time that may be watching this, guys, there is no replacement for work ethic or for hard work. I know you may not want to hear that, but there's not. There is no magic pill. There is no magic injection. As far as a steroid goes, let's say, there is no magic anything that will ever replace your work ethic and hard work of improving at something. And guess
Yeah.
what, kids? You all have the ability to control how hard you want to work at something. You don't have to be talented to do that. You don't have to be tall, short, come one, come all. You don't have to be any of that in order to work hard at something. So there's nothing on this planet that will replace that. No pill, no drink, no anything. No supplement, you know. and the list goes on, right? But for let's say the scenario you gave me, which was very different from a kid we're talking about. We're now talking about a rookie in a professional sports league, right? I've helped hundreds of them. I'm not exaggerating that. Hundreds of them in the form of a peer counselor, of giving them my experiences and having a friend of a friend that knows them calling me to try to talk them off the ledge of really getting deep in within their addiction and trying to get them the help that they need now, right? As part of that crisis care of getting in and saying, you have an issue, let us help you. And at least they'll have another athlete that's there that can identify what they're going through with the pressure that they're under, because they're being paid millions of dollars to put food. You want to talk about putting food on the table for their family? Dude, those athletes are putting food on the table for their entire family. Extended family, cousins of brothers, of neighbors. All right. They're responsible for hundreds of people. I don't think people understand that. They're not just responsible for themselves, their kids and their wives. They're responsible for their neighborhood many times. All right. So that's a big deal of saying, you're going to take this away from me. That could potentially get me back onto the field faster so I could continue to take care of so many people. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Because your health comes first. Absolutely. Yes.
So I'm going to take this in a different direction.
And you've got to give it to them straight like that. You have to give it to them straight like that, because it's a short-term fix.
Right. I'm going to take this in a different direction because you said something that I think can be talked about. You're also these organizations, the NFL, WWE, all these large organizations. They count on people like you to be you bring in the money. You're the showman, right? And then they figure out the business part.
You're the horse, absolutely.
You're the horse, yeah. So, do you think that in today's day and age, we're in 2021 now? Do you think that we're doing enough for these younger athletes to give them enough resources so that a lot of what happened to a lot of the older guys, the guys like you and before you, that we can help extend their careers or at least their mental health or substance use disorder health? Do you think we're doing enough?
Yes. Let me tag in. Let me tag in right there real quick, because it's a great point you brought up. Before, I would say, good Lord, no. But I will say yes now, because if you look this up, and I don't work for WWE, I have no reason to put them over, all right, or glorify them in any which way. But let me tell you, they have the most stringent steroid testing policy in all of sports or entertainment. Like, it's not even debatable how strict it is there now. And it's been that way for a few years, quite a few years, since I'd say 2008, if I'm not mistaken. More importantly, or equally important, depending on what you think is more important, I think it is, and that's the mental health part, right? Yours truly has had a lot of concussions. From pro wrestling. Those chair shots to the head, those are not fake chairs, folks. Hate to break it to you. Those are real chairs. We just know it's coming. All right. With that said, so you have all these different athletes with concussions, right? One of our very own, Christopher Nowinski, a former WWE wrestler and PS, a Harvard graduate, went on to develop and be part of those teams that developed those statistics we see today. When you're watching NFL today, the pregame shows, and they bring in that doctor to talk about the quarterback that's out with a concussion, and those studies all started with Christopher Nowinski and his post-concussion syndrome that he was having. He was sick for 6 months. He couldn't get out of bed. He was throwing up. Something was really off with Chris. And because he's brilliant and because he's smart, he said something needs to be done here. So he created, at the time, Sports Legacy Institute, that now goes by a different name, in which they started studying different former pro athletes that have now since been deceased. They study their brains. Me, when I die, my brain has already been donated to science for them to be able to study as well. So, like, you remember, God, what was my man's name in the NFL? But tons of different athletes besides
all the
NFL
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Junior Seau was the first one that came to my head.
So there was a lot of them that their brains were that are studied, and that's why we know the info that we know. And that's why if you're coming into WWE today, there are no chair shots to your head. You can't do that anymore. NFL, they started making NFL, they started making speed flex helmets. Speed flex helmets is kind of like a crumple zone of your vehicle, meaning first of all, you shouldn't be having head-on-head collisions at all in football.
Right.
They changed the way that you're supposed to be tackling and how they're trained as kids even on how to tackle properly without going head-to-head. But these helmets, they're called speed flex. And what they do is they act like a crumple zone in which they absorb the hit a lot more by part of the helmet giving. It kind of pushes in and crumples a little bit and pops right back out. And here in my city of Longwood, I did a fundraiser because our Lyman high school football team kids didn't have those helmets, and they cost $350 a piece. So I called Riddell. I'm like, y'all should be ashamed of yourself. I go, you're going to be charging $350 a piece for these helmets, knowing that a lot of these kids can't afford that. Their parents can't afford that. You know? And so I played football. It was important to me for discipline. I don't want some of these, these kids not to have the opportunity because of something they can't afford. So I did a fundraiser with wrestling, ironically. And we raised like $20,000 and we got those kids those helmets. And the reason I say that is because that's how evolved, I will argue, sports has gotten and getting in front of both mental health and addiction possibilities, because we can only learn from our past, right? We can only learn from the mistakes of many thousands of other athletes, whether it's a pro wrestler or football or any other athlete for that matter. And it takes, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but it takes people like us to be sharing our damn stories out there, because there's somebody out there that has probably never heard it, and you might be talking to them right now. They're on that mental ledge, so to speak, of do I continue to use or do I go get that help? I'm terrified of withdrawal. I don't want to do this. Well, shoot, 7 foot, 350 pound giant Matt Morgan kicks ass and takes names for a living, was terrified of withdrawal too. In fact, that was why he kept not wanting to get help, because he was terrified of withdrawal. If I could take down that giant, maybe there's maybe I have a chance here too, because he was scared just like anybody else was. And he's gotten so much better, and he's 14 years sober. Why can't I do that?
That's beautiful. Well,
and I'm one of millions of us.
You are.
One's of millions.
You are.
Good point.
You are.
That's just our story, right?
I know. I mean, after this show, we do the political show. We do We the Middle, but right now, we're not doing it. But I do have a question that people have politicized, and I'm not asking for political reasons. I'm asking because I can see your passion for the young athletes. I can see how important athletics has been in your life, and it not only gave you a platform, but it also allowed you to come out of your own personal shell and excel in your life and enjoy your life. When you see that so many school districts have not had sports, when you see that so many different schools, there's a lot of young people that have gone through their junior year and now going through their senior year without being able to play a sport. God, I just got chills just even saying it, because I can only imagine if that was my thing and I wasn't able to do it the final 2 years of high school. Any opinions or thoughts on that?
Yeah. First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Where to even begin? All right. I'll try to make this quick because I know we're short on time, but listen.
It's okay. We can go as long as we want.
Absolutely. Oh, really? Okay, great. Then listen, these kids depend on this. Just like the same kids that depend to go to school to get their meals per day. There's kids. We have a demographic of kids that go to school literally because they're struggling that much, and that's where they get to eat their meal, right? If that's not sad and heartbreak, I don't know what is, right? But so is these other kids that depend on their sports so much, because that is where they get their social acceptance. That is where they get their social interaction. And what about those that are really good at this and are dependent on it for a scholarship to go to college and better their life? I couldn't even fathom being put in that position. It's tough.
And that's why I asked, because I think about if you were a later bloomer kid, so like in your freshman and sophomore year, you were still developing, and so earlier when you said work ethic, I can't help but think of Scott Skiles. You remember him? Scott Skiles.
Oh my God!
He's like the guy that I think about when I hear a guy that probably doesn't have all the talent, but damn, he works so hard to be successful. Scott did it, man, and Scott was scrappy here on the Magic and
Yes.
afterwards. And so I was very impressed with Scott, and I enjoyed meeting him. Back in the day when he played for the Magic because of that specific thing that you said earlier. And I'm thinking about all the Scott Skiles out there in the world that they don't have the biggest body structure. They're not the strongest. They're not the fastest. But damn it, they were working hard so that maybe in their junior and senior year they could be seen, and then that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Because
100%.
Not everybody is 6'4" in 8th grade. Some people don't explode into their size until junior, senior year, or even afterwards. So I feel for all those young kids that are unable to ever show or get that opportunity.
And those that you guys, let's say guys, those that aren't, I don't want to say that good, but those that aren't on the brink of potential college scholarships, because that's a very small demographic of athletes that get that athletic scholarship. So let's just talk about anybody else that plays sports. Some of my friends, my closest friends today, were guys I played on my football or basketball team together, or baseball team, right? And they went on to do amazing things. One's a director of Merrill Lynch, another went on to Princeton, graduated Princeton. I mean, my point though is what the sports teaches you, even if you don't have to take it and go then play professionally or play in college even, but what high school sports teaches you is that discipline, that work ethic that you're talking about, all of those things that, I'm sorry folks, I hate to burst your bubble, but sports absolutely positively is one of the best things you can have your child do, because it gives them that broad spectrum of where all of those things are going to be needed in life. Okay. You're going to wake up one day not like your job eventually at some point or another in your lifetime. And guess what sports will have taught you if you played sports? Oh, well, I've got to go out there and I've got to bust my tail and try to be the best I can at this. In the discipline and the structured environment that sports can give one, I just think is such an underrated thing. People completely underrate it and call them lunkheads and call them dumb jocks, and it's sad to see. And I wish parents would give their kids an opportunity to be at least introduced to it. They don't like it, don't push it on them. Fine, that's different, but at least give them an opportunity because of where it can go and what it can do for them to open doors for them socially, and just as far as unlocking their potential, even honestly. Going back to the one thing again about work ethic.
Coaches are some of the most incredible mentors and father figures for kids that are missing it. And I just wish we would have done it a different way. I know we're deep into this problem already, and I think we still need a solution. But I really wish we would have found another way out of that particular issue early on. Well, in Florida, we're lucky. In Florida, we're very fortunate, but other states and other cities, they weren't as and Trinity and I joke about this all the time. It's like, man, I've never been more proud to be a Floridian than this year because my life and my kids' life, even though, my daughters have been doing, virtual school, but they're doing college. I mean, my other daughter graduated high school virtually, and that kind of sucked. But at least the rest of life, it was like 3 months of hardcore shutdown. But after that, we kind of lived our lives and we learned how to behave properly, I guess. Mask up here, don't mask up here. Stay distance, wash your hands, all that stuff. And we've had good leadership here in Florida where we've been able to live our lives normally. But then you talk to some of your friends from other states and go, you're still what? You can't go to school. You're locked down. You can't even go to a restaurant. You can't. What? And so when you're talking sports, I'm thinking about those kids, not my life, because in Florida we're still doing a lot of this stuff. But I'm thinking about those kids in other areas that haven't been able to do any of that. And like you said, some of them, depend on the school to eat. Some of them depend on the school to have a male role model that's home, that's around. Some of them need the team,
hey brother,
because it's a ready-made friendship. Go ahead.
What about the fact that they're going to school to get away from an abusive situation?
Yes.
Like there's so much. I mean, come on. I think we all agree on this, how important it is that we get them back there safe and sound, but back into school again in these other places in which they're not able to. I'm sorry,
And
because you see the numbers, you see the suicide numbers right now, you see the overdose numbers right now. Like, guys, those aren't no, they're not talking about that nearly enough.
No, not at all.
There's all of these wide spectrum of different things that are now happening that causing death to people because of the fact their norm has been completely just shaken up.
Well, look at the divorce rates even. The broken homes are being created from all this. People are going nuts, man.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, because early on, when I had asked you a question, your first response was sports. Sports. That's how important it was. Sports were the deal. That helped me. That was my coping mechanism. And I'm thinking, wow, that coping mechanism is not even there for a lot of people. That escape, that distraction, that other thing to do rather than sit there in self-pity or fear or anxiety or depression or whatever it is you're experiencing. You don't have that sport to go to like that. So, it pains me.
So like, let's say that happened. Let's say little Matt Morgan is in today's pandemic, for example, right? And I don't have those sports. Yeah. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, I'd be screwed. I'll just be very honest. I would be screwed because I would not know how to assimilate a normal friendship. Right. Just all these different things that sports was able to give me besides the obvious of training and working hard at something and seeing your fruits of your labor pay off by the harder you work at it. Yes. But the friendship aspects, I am my brother's or sister's keeper out there on the field or on the court or whatever we're playing, that as well, that camaraderie that I really needed as I thought I was always this dorky looking kid that nobody wanted to be friends with, but they would be because I was so good at basketball or football or base. You know what I mean? And so now you take that away from me. Like, are you kidding me? Who knows what would have happened to me?
Yeah. I remember the transition from middle school to high school. There was some guys that everybody like made fun of, and remember, I grew up in the '80s, so it was '70s, '80s. So
it was really
the way we made fun. Yeah, we really made fun of people, man.
Yes.
I mean, everybody had a nickname where I grew up, and then we're all Mexicans. So, dude, if you were the one white boy that looked a little bit different, you really hurting it because we would have definitely made fun. And that's just the way it was. It was normal, like you said, it was normal. And so I'm thinking, though, from junior high to high school, how some guys grew so big between 8th grade to 9th grade that all of a sudden they started playing football and now they're studs. You're like overnight. There's guys that just all of a sudden they had friends. They had no friends in 8th grade. Now they have the whole the offensive line all hanging out together. They were all the same kind of weird kids in the 8th grade, but now they're all offensive linemen and they're all 6 foot something and 300 pounds. Nobody's saying anything to them anymore. You know what I mean? So, because they're all together. You know what I mean? They've united. It was like Mercury, like whoop. Now they're all together in one. So it's not just one isolated, real big guy that everybody can pick on. Now it's like 6 or 8 or 10 of those same big guys all together. And so, I really appreciate your story, man. I appreciate you sharing it with us. I appreciate you sharing your openness. 14 years in recovery. That's incredible. You wrestled with addiction, but you've been beating it. You're still beating it. You got 14 years sober. You're a friend of the program. We appreciate you all the time. You did great on the Hope-a-thon. You did great on this show. Thank you very much. There was a question that somebody had, Trinity. What was the question about him wrestling again?
Yeah, man. I want to hear it. So go ahead and put it up there. Philip Capro. His name is Philip Capro, and he asked earlier on, he said, Matt Morgan, I heard you are going back into the ring next month. Is that true? And if so, are you prepping?
So Philip Capro is a friend and a leadership seminal, class of 29, classmate of mine. That's a hilarious question. But the truth is, yes, we are doing a fundraiser. So listen, you'll love this. When I did the Hope-a-thon, you remember I spoke about being very proud about serving on our Seminole County Opioid Council, appointed by our Sheriff, Dennis Lima, right?
Yes.
Well, as you know, Dennis Lima is the right-hand man to our governor and Casey DeSantis as well on the war against opioids. It's like he's a big deal on this really taking care of war on opioids. So anyways, he created this OPOD initiative that I shared with you on that show, if you'll remember. And then he's also partnered with Advent Health and creating this Hope and Healing Center that's about to be that's being built right now. It's going to be
Yep.
opening soon here in Seminole County, helping addicts. It's a huge deal for us. Huge deal.
Right
Yep.
on.
I'm very proud of that work that he's doing. But this, what Phil's talking about, Phil Capro, we're doing a wrestling event called Seminole Showdown. So those of you that are watching here, you want to watch pro wrestling, you want to see Old Man Morgan throw on a pair of trunks again and power bomb people through hell, come watch this event.
Nice.
Because it's one, you're going to be contributing to that the Hope and Healing Center. Number one, that's why we're doing this. It's going to be a fundraiser that we're hosting, and I'll be posting that on my Facebook page. If you guys haven't checked it out, you'll be able to see it here in the next day or so. I'll have that up on my social media platforms. But again, I'm getting back in the ring for a good reason. And I'm going to be wrestling against, get this, you guys, our supervisor of elections, Chris Anderson.
What?
He agreed to that?
And
Is there a handicap here? Are you going to do it like one-armed or something?
I was just going to say there is a little bit, because he's being managed by none other than the former mayor, the mayor before I was in Longwood, Ben Paris, one of my better friends as well, and who's completely turned on me apparently and is managing Chris Anderson. So
is this
Wow.
dude allowed to bring weapons or something? Or
So I will say to everybody watching this, you'll always see something in professional wrestling, and it's called "Card is always subject to change." Just remember I said that. And with that, I promise you all that you will see me wrestling for certain. You'll see Chris Anderson wrestling for certain, and Ben Paris as well doing what he does as a manager. But you'll also see really good cruiserweight wrestling. You'll see women's wrestling. You'll see the best of the best as well. And it's all to raise money again for our Hope and Healing Center here in Seminole County. So guys, please help contribute if you can.
Yeah, Philip Capro just put the link in our comments, by the way.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that question.
He
That's
is
awesome.
so on top of it.
He
Phil
is.
is like he's on top of it.
That's your manager. Maybe he should.
He should be. He is so freaking smart, Phil. He's such a good dude with a big heart. Love him to death.
You know, I want to throw it. I'm the manager for a wrestler too. I have a wrestler, and that I would like to contribute to the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
In the middle?
The Dharma guy.
Is he in the middle of us right now?
Guy. Yeah.
You don't want to see that.
The Dharma guy. That's my
I'm like
wrestler.
a retired Vader is what I am right now.
No, I'll be that big.
So I told you that.
Behind him going, he's going to get you. You're nothing. You're just a little punk. And then,
some Jimmy Hart stuff. Some Jimmy Mouth of the South.
Jimmy Hart, man. I'll be Jimmy Hart, man.
Yeah.
That's funny. My Dharma guy will go smack you down.
Dude, I would not question it. Dude is humongous, folks. He's trying to build me up being humongous. Dude. This guy right here in the middle is a monster of a man.
Yeah, I got the beast. right here. That's the Dharma guy. After he beats you up, he'll sit there and namaste you to death. he's gonna crumple you up in a lotus position.
Oh my gosh! I think we're running out of time, guys.
His signature move is downward facing dog. He's just gonna grab you and then just bend you down. I love it. We look forward to that, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. We'll support it. Please make sure that we get the information so we can tell everybody about it here on the show. We'd love to go as well. So you better send that invite, Matt. That's pretty awesome, man. Listen, Matt, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us again. 14 years sober, Matt Morgan, Longwood commissioner. Big shout out to all the commissioners over there at Strongwood. Love Longwood, Florida. We're going to end this part of the show in a second after Matt, you give your final words, final comments, final thoughts on anything that you want to share, brother. It's all you.
No, I mean, I don't think there's a need to really beat a dead horse here. I think we absolutely delivered what we were here to deliver. I don't pre-plan anything I'm going to say when I come on these shows. You'll never catch me reading off a script a day in my life, or even bullet points for that matter. Every time I talk, no matter where it is or what context it's in, it's always going to be 100% from the heart. You want to know why? Because there's nothing to really remember. There's nothing that you really need to rehearse. If you're always coming from here, if you're able to always come from here, I truly believe it in my heart of hearts, only good things are going to happen. So everything that you heard me talk about here on the air, and any show I do for that matter, is one of the most things in the world that I'm most passionate about, and that is addiction. And overcoming it and doing whatever the hell I have to do to be a part of that solution. I want to thank our Sheriff Dennis Lima again for pointing me onto his Seminole County Opioid Council. And we've got a very exciting announcement coming up while I have you guys here of how we're going to find a way to get through to our kids here in our Seminole County public school system, even though we can't go deliver that message in person because we can't have them all in the same arena, as it were, or venue because of social distancing, right? You can't have them all in the same auditorium in one school, in which I used to speak to at one time. So what I'm going to do is figure a way around it with a very slick video with the help of Opera del Sol. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're amazing. And we're going to create a really slick looking video that's going to be able to still reach out to our kids because they need us more than ever right now. You see the suicide rates, you see the overdose rates, you see the addiction rates, you see the divorce rates, you see all of these negative rates skyrocketing right now. So right now people need the biggest help that they've ever needed. Now's not a time to allow the virus stand in front of us, still delivering that message of hope and healing, right? Cheap plug. While at the same time being able to make sure our kids know that their leaders still love them. I think that's incredibly important, and nobody loves them more than I do. And I'll be damned if I allow this virus to get in front of me, even though I can't go there in person and talk to them as one big school, right? Because of the virus, I will through this video, and it's going to be slick and it's going to get their attention. That's the only language these kids talk is through very slick videos that are going to get their attention. And I want to thank Miss Dupree with Opera del Sol that's going to be helping me, Project Opioid, our Seminole County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Dennis Lima and Michelle Smith over there. And hopefully I'll have it on my social media here once we get it rolling. And it will be hopefully eventually be played in our Seminole County public schools, most importantly to those kids that really need to see this. They need to know we care and love them, but more importantly, about keeping their guard up right now more than ever against addiction and experimenting with any drugs or alcohol right now. That's basically it. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Matt. Trinity.
Yeah, man. I just kind of want to. My focus, I think, right now wants to be on just thank you. Thank you for living out loud, man. I think that part of the problem right now is too many people do live in the shadows. Too many people are embarrassed to talk about it. They think it makes them less than, and actually it makes you more than. It makes you greater than. It shows that, look, I've been through hell, and I can still come out and succeed and be awesome, right? Like, many people out there right now only know you as the political stuff and what you're doing there. So you've had a whole second life, regardless of what you've been through. And I think that that's the message that people need to hear is live out loud, be the best that you can be, and yeah, you might have some roadblocks along the way, but they can be overcome. Recovery is possible. I just thank you, man. I think more people need to be out there saying it.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you very much. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I love that throughout the 21 years of doing this show, I've got to meet a lot of really cool people with some great stories and been able to bring it to those of you that watch or listen. And I think that's what's cool because we're able to showcase that we do recover. I know that typically when you hear about, someone with an addiction, it's through some sort of tragedy, like it's a DUI or it's a wreck or a divorce or destruction. But on the other side of that, we do recover and we do get better. Millions of us get better and millions of us get our lives back, but not just a normal way. We do it in such a loud way sometimes that we help bring other people up. We become servants to our community. And that's what I hear. I hear servitude. Matt's got it. I got it. And Trinity, although he's not in recovery because he's not an addict, he does it too. And so thank you all very much for sharing this with us. Thank you very much for listening, watching, however you did it. Remember, if you want to watch this show or other shows, youtube.com/thecouchlive. Remember to tune in every Friday here on if you're doing it live on Facebook, facebook.com/WPSN99. We also do other shows like Dharma Time, and we also do other shows like We the Middle, which is more political. And then we also do like a sports show, And so we do other stuff. But today it was all about Matt Morgan, wrestling with addiction, literally, but bigger than that, recovering from addiction and giving out. So remember Seminole Showdown. Be looking out for that. It's called Seminole Showdown. He's going to be wrestling. He's going to put them tights back on. and
Yep.
he's going to be whooping some butt. And if I have it my way, Trinity will be right there with his tights on too. So from all of us here on the couch live, adios amigos. Time for a taco. Goodbye.